Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to introduce the International Recovery Platform. It is actually a network for Build Back Better. So I think the question is why there is this network we call the International Recovery Platform, and what are the functions? I think you saw this photo. This is in Indonesia, in Aceh, the province of Aceh. It's the impact was so huge, and almost the whole province was flattened. And see, there are very few left after the tsunami. And it was not only Indonesia, Aceh, that was impacted. There were several other countries, I think Sri Lanka, Thailand, even parts of India, and it even reaches in some parts of Africa. So during that time, there was this question: how can those impacted governments effectively recover from a disaster? And this kind of disaster is too huge. And we tried to look back, and during that time, there were actually lack of knowledge on recovery. If you look at the publications, much of the publications were on emergency response, preparedness, and very limited on recovery. The case studies, the policies, there are so much less information in terms of recovery. And of course, because of that, there were also lack of tools, guidance, and even frameworks like a recovery frameworks, or how to recover even before the disaster happens. We don't have this. And of course, there is a lack of preparedness to recover. Right now, we have a lot of investment, risk transfer. During that time, there were no things like that. Even how we continue our operations. So in recognition of those gaps and challenges, there was this growing thought that perhaps it is time to learn more about recovery. And these are the members of the platform. Many of them are pioneering members of the International Recovery Platform, wherein the idea was let's try to focus, understand recovery, and make recovery as an opportunity to reduce disaster risk in the future. Because in the time that we recover, we can already prepare for the next one. And so as a platform, it tried to address the challenges of knowledge gaps, tools, and some of those are frameworks that would be addressed. And so they were organized. That was in May 11 of 2005, just few weeks after the World Reconstruction second conference on disaster risk reduction that was in Kobe. And there's this secretariat that supported. So the platform would support the HFA, the function of the HFA during that time, because there were gaps in recovery and it would be addressed. And then 10 years later, the function of IRP is to support Build Back Better, to support the implementation of the Sendai framework for action. And the focus now is on Build Back Better. So the mission of IRPS again is on identifying and strengthening the knowledge as well as information Build Back Better. And why Build Back Better? These are some examples because there are a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas about Build Back Better. This is the case of Gujarat 2001. During the earthquake, they noticed that there were a lot of dead ends and there were problems for reconstruction because people cannot, even the responders cannot properly go around because the roads have a lot of dead ends and there are small streets. So during reconstruction, they took it as an opportunity to improve it. And when they improve it, it becomes wider and they avoid a lot of dead ends so that you can easily circulate around it. And this is in Aceh, province of Aceh. Before the tsunami, there were a long history of insurgency. And also, it was one of the poorest provinces in Indonesia. But just few years after, during the recovery, they took an opportunity to improve the economy, improve the livelihoods, and even have opportunity to have a peace talks so that some of these insurgents would lay down their arms and join the mainstream. So what is Build Back Better? So essentially, Build Back Better is on improvements, either on physical infrastructures, societal systems, livelihoods, economy, environment. This morning we have this Build Back Better approach by Sendai City, and really it explains how some of these areas are being improved in the process of recovery. So it looks like this if you look at it in the graph. We have our normal development path, and this development path, which is going upwards, sometimes are stopped, interrupted because of disaster. And either we go downward or we even surpass our original development plan. So Build Back Better is to surpass it. And that is an opportunity. So for IRP, we look at that opportunity to build back better. And this is our areas of work. We support international agenda, meaning we support recovery programs, actions, and discussions. And these are some of the activities that IRP is actively engaged. We have this annual International Recovery Forum, which is every January, and the next one will be on 26th January. 24th January in Kobe. So we can invite you to be there. And then knowledge management. So we produce this guidance, information, case studies on recovery. It's because the governments are looking for it. Where are the guides? How can we rebuild the livelihoods? How can we address issues on health? How can we address issues on psychosocial? So we provided guidance on this. And we have a lot of thematic areas for recovery, like governance, gender, private sector. So these are all available in our booth. By the way, there's an IRP booth wherein you can get all these knowledge products and tools, as well as the CDs. And collaborations. IRP works very closely with the partners. As I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of partners. There are ADB, World Bank, and many others, UNDP. And engagement. This is another areas of work because there are many big events, and IRP engaged, like Bosai Forum, like global platform, and there are also big projects on frameworks, PDNA, where an IRP is actively engaged. So far, after more than 10 years, more than a decade of operations, what are the contributions of the platform? What are the contributions of IRP? So here, in terms of knowledge products, knowledge and recovery, there are compilations of recovery lessons. There are a lot of disasters, there are a lot of lessons there. There are a lot of documents, and IRP becomes a knowledge hub of all this knowledge. And using all those knowledge as well, IRP pioneered the development of these guidance notes on recovery so that governments, private sector, NGOs can use them to guide their work on recovery. And we organize learning events, including workshops, including training, so that practitioners can be capacitated on these areas. And of course, there are other events. We do a lot of disaster recovery planning because the issue is how do we actually use this knowledge that we already have? So we have this knowledge products, we have these case studies and tools. We can use this by using them, applying them in your recovery plans, either pre-disaster recovery plans or post-disaster recovery plans. So these are very useful, and that's among the works of IRP. So thank you very much, and I hope you can visit our booth for more other information. Thank you.